This podcast is brought to you by the Texas Hill Country River region in Uvalde County. What's super unique about this area is that the Frio, Nueces, and Sabinal rivers are all located in the same county. It's like the hill country that you know and love, but really rural, so you're surrounded by wildlife. And life just kind of slows down out here, so you can enjoy the simple pleasures like campfires and fishing and just enjoying the company of the people that you love.
Go to visituvalde.com for more info. Buenos dias, everyone. I'm Jake, your host of the In Between podcast, here with my beautiful wife, Leah, again.
Hi.
Say hello.
Hello.
And we have a very special guest today from New York, and her name is Annabelle. Hello, Annabelle.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming down. Making this long, 28 hour? 28 hour.
Oh my God.
And it's almost 30 hours.
Wow.
Road trip down here. We really appreciate you coming down, and you're doing some pretty amazing stuff here. Just like other guests we've had in the past stay with us. Now, Leah, do you want to kind of talk about what she's working on?
Yeah.
How that came about?
Yeah. So like the past several guests that we've interviewed, I posted a TikTok thinking a few people would respond and want to come collaborate and make art with us. And a bazillion people responded. And some of the pitches, the responses just like instantly leaped to the top of the list. And when I clicked on your Instagram or whatever and saw your work and saw your pictures, it was just like, yes, this girl has to come and work with us. Like, your vibe is so cool. Your art is so cool. And I was so excited that you responded. Annabelle's here painting a mural as a headboard on our newly remodeled Louise cottage. So yeah, that's what she's doing here.
Yeah. So how's that been? And you finished it today, correct?
Mostly finished.
Okay.
I would say like 95% done. I obviously want to go back and do some finishing touches and make sure like all the colors are fully full and solid and not, streaky or anything. But yeah, it's been going really well. I mentioned this to Leo when we first started talking about this collaboration, but I've never done a mural before. So this was my first time. And I think it went really well.
It did go really well. It looks amazing. She's being humble. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Before you go further, how would you describe it to listeners, what you're doing, the mural that you did?
Yeah. So similar to what Leah said, we envisioned the mural to go behind a bed, so it would appear as the headboard. And a lot of my art has to do with mountains and the outdoors and, these nature scenes. So we have this really big arch. See my hands. This really big arch with a few mountains and a moon, and we thought it would tie in really nicely with the room and the decor and just give you this dreamy nighttime vibe when you go to sleep.
Awesome. So now I think where you were going to go after, before I asked you that question, how did you get into this?
So, okay, slightly long story.
Tell us, please.
So yeah, we've talked about this a little bit, but 2020 was obviously a weird year. It threw everyone for a loop in, different ways. I had just graduated from college in December of last year, so December of 2019. And I went to school in New Orleans. I was staying in New Orleans after I graduated for that following semester while all of my friends finished up school. Which is obviously when the pandemic hit and things really changed. And I don't know, I was at home. I was already feeling all of this, potential energy of being at home, being graduated, not really having a job or any next steps. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then that was obviously compounded a lot by the pandemic. And kind of in that phase where like we talked about, everyone was picking up hobbies, trying new things, baking, doing, a million different things, which I was also doing.
What were those things that you were doing? Because I missed the conversation on that, and just so that way the listeners can
We did everything. I mean, we cooked really like elaborate meals, which like I cooked before, but like we would, pick a recipe and cook. We did candle making. I did a lot of baking, which Alex, my boyfriend, who you guys will meet eventually, got very upset with me with all the baking because he was like, I can't go to the gym and you're making all of this delicious food. We did some like fluid painting. I don't know if you've seen that on TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, wherever, but like where you like pour the paint. Just like a bunch of various like crafts and projects just to like kind of fill the time. And one of those was I had an iPad that like I used for school or like reading. It was my mom's and she had given it to me. And I started drawing on the iPad and watching like a lot of YouTube videos and like Skillshare videos. I don't know if you know of Skillshare, but it's an amazing platform that has a lot of like really cool tutorials and like classes from like creators, creatives, all different types of people. And so I started watching some of those and I got really into it. And then, okay, backtracking a little bit, but in the past I had seen, there's this thing called the 100-Day Project. And I had seen like a bunch of like artists, different types of creatives do that in the past where like you commit to a certain thing and you make something of it every single day for 100 days and you post it like kind of no matter where you're at in your process. And it's like this whole thing to like encourage creatives and makers to like commit to something and like post about it, share your progress, and like hopefully have something cool develop out of it. And so I remembered that like kind of as I was starting to get really into like drawing on my iPad, and I looked it up because I was like, I don't know, I just like remembered it. I was like, what is that? I'd seen it before. And I looked it up and it was like an actual thing. Like there's a website called the 100-Day Project and like this girl started it and like it took off. And so yeah, this thing that I had seen like a bunch of like disparate people do in the past was actually like a unified thing that people started on a specific day. And I remember this was happening in the beginning of April, and the official day that the thing starts was April 7th. And I was like, okay, like that feels kind of like a sign. I feel like I should do it. And so I did that, and I had an Instagram account that I had previously used for like my film photography. I'm like kind of into taking pictures too. That's kind of like fallen into the background since I've like really developed like this art stuff. But so I had this separate account that I was already using for just like all of my other side passion projects. For the time being, it was film photography. And I posted my first illustration on there, told everyone about this project that I was starting, and kind of just like started to do it. I obviously didn't, post something every day for 100 days. I missed a bunch of days in between, and I ended up calling off the project at like, I want to say like day 67 or day like 71, like pretty close to the end, but like not, I didn't post every day and I didn't get it all the way to the end. But I kind of felt like by that point in like the 100-Day Project, I had like, realized why I was doing it. I had this whole other reason for doing it other than posting something every day, even though I still kind of was doing that. And so I just like realized I didn't really need to keep track. I was going to be creating either way. Like I had found something that I really liked. So I like took that little layer of pressure off and kind of just like kept going with it. Can you remind me of the question? Because I give you guys a lot of information.
Yeah,
just how you got into it.
You were going into how you got into it.
So yeah, that's kind of it. It was the duality of like the 100-Day Project being inspired by that, and then being at home feeling like I had nothing to do and no purpose because of graduating and because of the pandemic. And then like I think also like I don't think I'm the only one who like did that. There was definitely a big uptick in like art accounts that sprung up during the pandemic, and I think like a lot of them are still around. I think obviously some of them have probably like stopped posting or creating as much as like life has somewhat returned back to normal. But yeah, that's like definitely how it started and how I got here.
You saw the TikTok and the rest is history.
So it's funny because you were talking about like, because you graduated and you didn't really know what else to do, you just were trying new things, and this was like your COVID pivot, and you told me, you didn't mention it just now, but you were bartending and babysitting, or
serving at a bar and babysitting.
Okay. And like those two things in one day, it was like schools are closed, so we don't need you to babysit anymore, and bars closed. So like,
it was a big shift. Like to like go back into what I was saying of like, I had graduated in December. I had like before the pandemic started, I had already been going through this like kind of rut of like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? You know, all of my friends are here and have a purpose. Alex is traveling. He has a purpose. I'm in New Orleans with no schedule and nothing to do, no job offers, no like anything. And so I like very quickly was like trying to apply to like every restaurant and everything to like just try and get like something to fill my schedule with. And then just like in one day. And so it was just kind of like, it was probably a month in or like a month and a half into that. Cause like I probably got the jobs either in December or January. And then, you know, things hit the fan in March. And so like I was kind of just becoming like used to my like new routine in New Orleans and my new, you know, situation. And then everything kind of like got turned on its head again. And it was funny because then all of my friends who had like been helping me out with my, you know, uncertainty of what I was going to do, they're like, oh, you're probably so happy now because like you're graduated. You don't have to worry about like, you know, obviously you have things to worry about, but you don't have to worry about that. Like, so yeah, so it was definitely like, I was feeling kind of down on myself in December of like, oh, like, why did I try to graduate early? I could have just like taken a class, had fun, like not rushed it. But then when things happened, I was like, oh, everything happens for a reason. This made sense. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
What were you studying?
I studied political science and environmental studies. So nothing art related. But those are two things I'm still pretty passionate about. I just have like, you know, I don't cut that out. Those are two things that I'm still pretty passionate about. I just like felt like I, you know, wanted to do something more creative and more me, like something that I could control more.
You can absolutely see your interest in the environment and nature in your work, though.
Yeah.
Because that's primarily what you're doing is landscapes and nature-based stuff. And then your work with the intersectional
environmentalist.
Yes. Okay. Can you talk about that a little? Because I think that's super interesting.
Yeah. So they're also an organization that sprung up in June in response to the Black Lives Matter movement and the lack of I want to do this right because like this isn't my org, but you know, there's a lack of inclusion and a lack of acknowledgement of racial injustice and like social injustice in the environmental movement and in the outdoor space. And in response to the Black Lives Matter movement and seeing a lot of big outdoor brands, big outdoor people kind of staying silent and keeping those issues separate, Leah Thomas, the founder, one of the co-founders of IE, posted a graphic, you know, calling on environmentalists to support the Black Lives Matter movement. And she had the Intersectional Environmentalist Pledge. And that graphic like spread really far and wide. People were really like attracted to the message that she was, or the conversation that she was trying to amplify and start. And so her, along with Sab's Cats, Deandra, and Phil, the other co-founders, launched a platform and launched a resource hub and this, you know, multimedia organization that can like be a platform and a resource for people to like learn more about the intersectional environmentalist movement. I hope I did that justice.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you very much did.
Well, that's cool. So now do you, Leah said that you kind of, your artwork has taken off on Instagram and you have how many
you just
followers?
hit 10,000 followers
While I was
to
here,
just
yes.
start doing art a few months ago, and now you're at 10,000 followers. You're selling work, I'm imagining, freelancing, like.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's this like kind of like, I'm always torn between being, because like I like my work, I like what I'm putting out there, and clearly like, you know, some other people do too. But you know, imposter syndrome is real. People like always feel like they're not, you know, deserving or valid or whatever. And like, you know, I've been trying to like, you know, I am proud of myself, but I also feel that imposter syndrome and like kind of like a why me sort of thing. But, you know, I'm really like proud of what's happened and like what's developed from it. I think like the stuff that I'm putting out there is like, I make it for someone like me and like someone who likes the outdoors, someone who likes, I don't even know, like aesthetic art, I guess. Like, I don't know. I just try and make things for like someone like me. And I think like, I like to think I'm relatable and like a lot of other people relate to me. And so maybe that's like, I don't know, something that's like caused it to kind of take off. But I don't really like, I don't know, it's so like cliche when people are like, I don't know why, or like, I don't know what's so like special about me. But like, I honestly like, I don't really know why. I know I like put a lot of work into it. And I know I care a lot about like community and cultivating a community there. So like, I'm very like active with like responding to people and like, reaching out to people and, you know, obviously. And so I think that's like a big part of it, that like, you know, there's like a face behind the art too, which I'm trying to do more of like, you know, make it more personable and make it more of like, yes, I've built this brand, but like I'm also a part of it. And like, because I feel like in the beginning I kind of felt like I had to like distance myself from it because I don't know what's special about me, like why should I be in it? But like, I don't know, I'm kind of coming full circle of like, no, like you deserve to be in it because it's your page, you've made it, and like people are there to hear what you have to say, whether that be like visually or, you know, in the caption or on stories or whatever. So I'm trying to like put more of that human element back in it. But yeah, so like the fact that all of this has happened since April is definitely like mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, you absolutely are part of what makes it so important and so special. And, you know, your background, because there's lots of people that make like nature-based work or landscape-based work, but with your background in environmental studies and poli-sci and all of that, and the work that you're doing with intersectional environmentalist, intersectional environmentalist,
IE for short,
IE, the work that you're doing with them combined with your background, combined with the work, like that's not something that everybody has. And so I think people are kind of captivated by that. They're interested in that because it is so different. And it's not just a look at this pretty picture. That has its place and that's important, but your background just brings something different that I think is really important. So,
thank you.
So yes, insert yourself all over that page.
Yeah. What would someone, I always kind of go back to this. I've mentioned this, I kind of take this angle a lot in other podcasts, but if somebody was in your shoes, like they just graduated high school, college, they
or
just
high
graduated
school,
college,
similar feelings.
Just a little few years difference, but you know, they graduated college, now they're figuring out what to do, and they're kind of going down that same path that you were going down. Granted, they may not have a pandemic hit whenever that happens, but then again, who knows? What would you tell them? What would you say? What advice would you give them on just kind of how to move forward?
That's a good question. I don't know if this is like the number one piece of advice for this situation, but definitely like something that I didn't do and like you should, is I was just like really hard on myself. Like I gave myself no time. Like I'd graduated, you know, December 19th, and then on January, like I was expecting myself to like have a job in my field on like January 4th or like whatever. Like I had gotten back to school, the semester had just started, and I was already like, you know, my friends were in their first week of classes and I was beating myself up for like not having anything to do. Meanwhile, you know, 4 months before I would have been like begging for not having anything to do. And I just like, because I finally had it, I felt like, you know, I needed to be doing the next thing. You know, that obviously worked out in my case. Like everything happens for a reason, whatever. But like, I think I definitely deserved some time to just chill and like figure it out, and like even not figure it out, just some time to like chill, hang out. Like you just did a big thing. Like you don't need to immediately jump into the next thing. It'll be there for you. Like, yeah. And I had a lot of people around me trying to tell me that. And I just like, it's very hard when it's you and it's your life and you don't feel like you know, you feel like you're being lazy or you're not like putting in the most effort. And like, I definitely like let that get to me. And then that also just like stunts your ability to like make decisions or like go after things. Like, you know, if you're already feeling down on yourself or already feeling bad about yourself for not going after things, like you're not going to want to like, or you're not going to be in the best mindset to go after the next thing, you know? And that definitely like was happening to me. Like at first, like I said, like I applied to like all these different restaurant jobs, but like I didn't want to work in a restaurant. Like I just did it because I felt like I needed to do something or I needed to apply to somewhere. And like, that was the only thing I could find. So I was like, oh, I'll just do that. But like, why, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think like, I don't know, I talk about this a lot on my Instagram page too, but like slowing down and like, just like giving yourself time, because like, you know, you're in control. You can figure things out if you like give yourself the space to do it. So yeah, good. I think that
there's so much pressure on people to like finish high school, go to college, graduate, next day have the job. Like you said, you graduated and you're like, okay, where's my job at? Like,
and the whole point like, too, like I graduated a semester early to give myself that time to like figure everything out. And then I was like, oh my God, you're so behind. Like, what do you mean? Like you're not behind, you know?
Yeah. No, it's like this social pressure, I guess.
Totally.
But and you feel it from family, or you can feel it from family and friends.
And then you're looking around like you did at people around you that maybe did have a job, or, you know, and it's you start to compare, and then, you know, that doesn't lead you anywhere. Because can you imagine what if you would have found the perfect job in your field, and you wouldn't be doing what you're doing now, which, you know, could be perfect for you. Like, it's just crazy how, like you said, everything happens for a reason. And but at the time when you're going through it, it's so hard.
Yeah, I talk about, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but I talk about this all the time. Like, people are always like, oh, like, trust the process. And I'm so not like that. Like, I hate that, but like, they're right. You know, you never know it until they're actually right. And then you're like, oh, damn, I should have listened. But like, that was true for that too. So it's like giving yourself time, trusting the process, even when you feel like you shouldn't give yourself time and trusting the process is stupid. Like, it tends to work out.
There's this weird phenomenon about not trusting people and believing in what they're saying is true until it's too late, and then you realize that it is true. I know there's been many times when either parents or friends or even coworkers, you know, have said something to me, and it's like, no, it's fine, I'll figure it out, and then come to find out what they were saying is true. But you just, like, I couldn't see it at the time. And
because when you're in it's like painful. It's not fun. You can't see from that bird's eye view when you're in the middle of it. You're just feeling like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I went through a little bit of that when we moved to California. He was working and I couldn't find a job. I had a master's degree and I could not find a job. I applied everywhere. And just like you, I finally just got tired of being home and not doing anything. So I applied to Target and I got a job selling makeup at Target with my master's degree at 30 years old or however old I was. And I went through that whole feeling of like, what am I doing with my life? But now I can look back and see how that was the absolute most perfect thing for me to happen. And I learned like how businesses work. I'm working at one of the biggest businesses in America, like seeing how this works. And a couple months later, we started our own business. Had I not gone through that, like, I wouldn't have learned all the things that I did. So
a lot that carried over to that you carried over to our business.
Absolutely. Thank you, Target.
Yeah, Target. Yeah, I think that's your second home.
Yes, I know. I still love it. I work there and I still love that place.
I was going to say, where's the closest one to here?
San Antonio.
I worked at Walmart, and that I did not consider that my second home. But if it came down to the time that was spent in places for me at that time, it probably would have been a second home, because I was always at work. But that was fun, but yeah, I'm not a fan of Target. Oh, Walmart, or even really Target. Like,
you don't like to shop. So I want to talk about your travels, because you have done a lot of traveling. You met Alex in Germany. Like, let's talk about that, because I think it's super interesting.
Just like generally, or what about it?
Yeah, like how you're so young and you've been so many different places. I know a lot of people a lot older than you that haven't been nearly to the amount of places that you have. And I also want to know, were you traveling by yourself? Like,
so on the trip that I met Alex, so first of all, like, my mom is like super encouraging. Both of my parents are, but on the travel front, my mom is like more of the traveler than my dad. And yeah, she's just like always been very encouraging for me to like go new places, see new things. And like, I mean, even at home too, she's always just like wanting me to try new foods, try new activities. Like, she's all about doing all of the things and getting all of the experiences. So she's always been very, very encouraging of me to travel. I grew up in Long Island in New York. And it's a very camp centric place. Like, every kid I know goes to summer camp for 8 weeks, the entire summer, every year, like from when they're 7 years old to when they go to high school. Yeah. So like, my suburb is like a ghost town in the summer. Like, I went to day camp for a little bit. I did a few years of sleepaway summer camp, but not for 8 weeks. I went for like 4 weeks because I'm, only child, wanted to be home, like could not imagine going away for 8 weeks every summer. But yeah, so I was always looking for like things to do during the summer because all of my friends were gone. And I did like one or two, like teen high school, like summer travel programs. And then when I went to college, I like, wanted to like soak up all of the travel opportunities that they had. So my freshman year, there was a like summer study abroad program that I applied for. And it was in Paris, and I took like a literature class and a photography class. And so I got like 2 requirements done, and it was, that was really fun. So yeah, that was the summer after my freshman year. It was like a 4-week program. And that was cool. Like I got to meet a bunch of kids at my school that like I never would have, met otherwise. And so that was a really good first experience. And then, or not first experience, but just experience. And then the summer after that, a friend of mine at school sent me a text one day when I was in class, and he was like, oh, like, I really want to travel. Like, do you want to go to Europe this summer? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, give me more information. But he was like, no, like, I really want to travel this summer. I want to make it happen. Let's do it. And then the same day, I had another friend talk to me about woofing, which I don't know if you guys know about that.
No, what is that?
You should. So up your alley. It's the Worldwide Organization of Organic Farming. And basically, it's this huge registry of like organic farms all across. There's different, so there's like the worldwide organization, but then certain countries will have like their own woof portal. And so you can sign up. It's like a one-time fee. And then you get access to this like, enormous registry of farms and like homesteads and places all around the world that are looking for people to host to, in exchange for some work. And they're all different arrangements. Like I had a friend who worked on a dragon fruit farm in Hawaii, and she was there for like months and, would spend the day doing work on the farm. But then you're in Maui, and she was like, living life. And yeah, so she's actually the friend who introduced it to me. And then, so I found out about that on the same day that my friend texted me being like, let's go to Europe and do something. So I was like, ooh, this could be a, thing. So right after class, I went over to his dorm and we started looking it up, and we found like a bunch of really, really cool woofing opportunities. And we found this farm in Greece, in Santorini. And we were like, oh, we want to go to Santorini, but we cannot afford to go to Santorini. Yeah. That sounds awesome. And so, yeah, we found this host. We communicated with her for a little bit, and we went and stayed on her farm for 2 weeks. And they were kind of like, they were kind of scaling back. So like there wasn't as much work for us to do. So I don't think we got like the typical woofer experience. Like we did like, some days we would do like 2 hours of work, some days like 4, but we never really did like, an 8-hour day of work, which like you definitely do on some farms.
And they pay you?
They don't pay you, but they host you and they give you food. So like it makes your accommodations free. And there might be somewhere they pay you, but I think it's mostly just like work in exchange for accommodations and food. And so, so we did that for 2 weeks, and that was like the starting point of our summer trip. And yeah, we just like planned this whole trip based around this like 2-week woofing thing. We bought an Interrail pass when they were having, like we bought it like the next week because they were having like a huge sale, like their 1 time a year sale. And we're like, all right, like let's just do this. Was
the only thing you needed the visa? You can get away with the holiday visa?
Yeah, we were only going for 6 weeks. We weren't staying in any country for like too long where we would need a visa. And we were only like in Europe. We didn't really we didn't go to any other places, so we didn't need any visas. We just like went. We had like most of it planned out, but obviously like some of the things changed as we were going. But yeah, so it was me, my friend Zach, and then my roommate Isabel. Isabel came for the first 2 weeks for the woofing part, and then went home for a job that she had lined up. But me and Zach stayed for, I think we were there for 6 weeks, and that's where I met Alex on that trip. So yeah, we met in Germany, which was obviously like a little bit later on the trip. We went, up through Europe. And then, yeah, I met Alex. We were staying in the same hostel. Zach and I had gone, so we went to Munich. Trying to like think of how to tell this story, but yeah.
And Alex is, we're going to be interviewing him in a separate podcast. So,
I'll leave some of those details.
They both have so much good stuff to say that we split them up so we can get 2 podcast episodes.
So you'll be hearing more about him in another podcast.
Yeah, but basically he's a big traveler. We were staying in the same hostel, and Zach actually met him first. We were staying in the same room, big like guest room. And Zach met him, was like, oh, Annabelle, there's a cute guy in our room. And then we went out to dinner, didn't think about it. And then the next day, we were all like having a beer at the like hostel bar patio area. And yeah, we got to talking. And then the next day, so Zach and I went to Munich to go to Dachau, the concentration camp that is fairly close to Munich. It's like a 25-30 minute train ride. Honestly, might be closer. And yeah, Zach and I are both Jewish, really important to like our, heritage when you're there to like go see some of the Holocaust remembrance sites. And so we went to that, and we had told Alex and his friend that he had met in the hostel that we were going. And they were like, wait, like this might be super weird. Like, don't want to crash your like, super serious thing that you're doing, but like we would love to come. We feel like that's like a responsible tourism thing to do. Like we feel like we should go while we're here. Could we come with you guys? And we were like, yeah, like sure. Come with us to Dachau. And so then Zach and I went on like a guided tour, and Alex and his friend, like the tour guide was super cool, let them like come along and hang out and like learn from him. And so yeah, so we did that, which was obviously like a very heavy transition from like meeting at a bar the night before. And then the next day after Dachau, we all just like hung out in the city. And then we were both leaving for other cities. I was going to Prague with Zach, and Alex was going to Amsterdam, which is funny because that's like one of my favorite cities. And I was very jealous that like he was going there without me. And we made plans to meet up in London, like 2 weeks later. And then, yeah, Zach and I went to London. We hung out with Alex and his friend there. We were there for like the 4th of July. We were there for the World Cup. So that was really fun. I'm not really into soccer or anything, but like, obviously like you're there and everyone's into it. You have to be. And it was really cool. And then, yeah, we like, that was kind of towards the like end of our trip, London was. And then I came home. I was home for like a month, and then, or maybe a little more than a month. And then Zach and I both like left the country again, because that was like at my school, the year that people study abroad is typically junior year in the fall. And so that was right around that time. And so I went to Amsterdam, and so then I was there for like the next 4 months, and that was like the beginning of Alex and I's relationship. So he was, in California starting law school. I was in Amsterdam, and we were long distance for like the first 4 months. And then he came to visit me at the end of my program. We did that bike trip that I mentioned, which like I can tell you more about. I don't know if Alex is going to tell you more about that, but we did this awesome bike trip together. And yeah, that was like kind of like the, from like Munich to the end of the bike trip was like, I would say like the beginning of our like, or like the foundation of our relationship or whatever. And yeah, we've been seeing each other and traveling together like ever since.
Wow. That's awesome.
There's so much. Y'all have done so much. I feel like you both share this, but y'all just have like such an excitement for life and trying all the things and saying yes to adventure. And I'm sure you get a lot of that from your mom, because you were your parents. You were saying that earlier. Do you think that's where all of that comes from? Because I know so many people that don't live their life in such a big way. Like you live very big. Where does that come from? How do you do it?
I would say attributing that to my mom is definitely fair. She's just like, I don't know, like not to like go on a side tangent about my mom, but she's like, I get a lot of myself from her, which like in some ways is great. In some ways I'm like a little nervous about, but it's fine. But she's just like the most like loving, caring, generous person ever, like would give, an arm and a leg to whoever asked. And like, I think I get a lot of that from her. Like she cares so much about other people. And I don't think that necessarily means you live your life in a big way, but that means like you attract a lot of like good, hopefully good energy to you. And like the people who you meet are, usually like stick around and like want to do things with you, want to invite you places and like want you around. And so like from a very young age, like my mom, she's a dentist, and a lot of her staff is Colombian. And when I was like, and my Spanish, okay, sidetrack, Spanish was my first language.
Oh, really?
I don't speak it anymore. But my mom's staff is like all Colombian, all speaks, amazing Spanish. And one of my early like caretakers was this woman, Milta, and she spoke fluent Spanish and like very little English. And so between like my mom went back to work 6 days after she had me. So between going to the office all the time as like a young kid, like pre-kindergarten, to like hanging out with Milta at home, like I just picked up Spanish way faster than I picked up English. That's to tie into the fact that my mom took me to Colombia when I was like 6, and like we went again when I was 12 to like hang out with Milta and her family and like do things like that. And like my cousin Sam, for his bar mitzvah, like we all went to Israel. So like she was always like encouraging me to like, she's always bringing me to these cool things, but also always like encouraging me to say yes to these opportunities and stuff. So yeah, I think that like definitely comes from my mom.
And your raising and the way she raised you.
Yeah.
And that's something we've like now that you know we're older, but I used to think before that if and when we ever had kids, our days of traveling would be over. But then like I had this mind shift of like, you know what? Why would we let that stop us from traveling?
Yeah.
We'll just throw them in the back of our backs and tie them, and then we'll just take off and go, and you know they'll be a part of the adventure. Just the same thing. It's just now there's an extra person.
Yeah, I totally agree with, like, I think it can, like, you can see it either way, but like I love when I'm like out on a hike and I see like a family with like the dad having like the little baby in the back of their, I don't know, on his back, or like, I don't know, my parents are big, I mean, not really anymore, but my parents were big skiers, and like, you know, they took me skiing when I was like 2 or 3, like once I could stand, like they were like, all right, you're coming, or like, I don't know, things like that. So I think like it's up to the people on whether or not they like let that, you know, stop them. But like, I don't think my mom was ever gonna like let that stop her. Like she was still, you know, my dad still plays tennis. My mom still is doing all of her, like, I don't know, we were always doing all of the things. And like, yeah, they never really let, like, I'm also an only child. So like, that's definitely like a little bit easier to manage of like, you know, bringing your kid everywhere and like giving them all of the experiences and opportunities. But like, yeah, I don't think she ever intended to like let having me stop her from doing her fun things.
Yeah, we don't have kids. We may not. I don't know. But we're always talking about how we're going to raise them, because, you know, we both agree we want them to be fearless and we want them to be full of life. And we don't want to, you know, constantly be like, oh no, don't do that. This could happen, that could happen. And to, you know, put all of that fear on them. We want them to be like, I want to go to Europe and work on a farm and like,
or ski at 2 years old.
Or ski at 2 years old. Like, you know, I think there's so much fear that you can instill in a child, and you're living proof of like
fear by limitation.
Yeah.
My parents,
you know,
you're living proof of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
You know,
which is great. Yeah, that's awesome. I like that.
Yeah. On that note, like my parents always used to tell me that like when I was a kid, like they would always like let me like play in the dirt or like whatever, and all the other parents at the park would be like, oh, like she's getting so dirty, like don't you want to like not whatever, and they're like, no, like let her get the germs, like let her like build an immune system, like whatever. And like she, you know, I wasn't doing anything bad, I was just like playing in the dirt, but all these other parents were like so nervous, like, you know, you want to keep your kid so clean and so like perfect, but they were like, no, like she has to like get used to it, get her hands dirty, like whatever. Not whatever, like, but whatever.
Yeah, I'd love to interview your parents.
Yeah, next time bring them to. We'll
my mom
interview
would have
them.
loved. My mom would have loved your place.
Aww. Yeah, I always like when I meet people that are like really cool adults or even really cool children or teenagers, I'm always asking the parents, like, what did you do? I don't have kids yet, but I'm taking notes of all of the people that I like in the world. Like, I want to know what their parents did so that I can do that too. So
that's a good idea.
One day we'll interview your parents.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. We're gonna manifest it right now on this podcast. We don't know what episode it's gonna be, but
we'll figure out a way to get them down here.
Annabelle's mom and dad.
Yeah. So I want to go back to your work and kind of what you're working on. Is there any project that you're currently, I mean, you're currently working on our mural, but is there anything that you have in the works that you're really excited about? Even if it's not art related, like just what are you really excited about right now?
Well, I'm obviously like, not to backtrack to the 10,000 followers thing, but that was like a really big goal of mine for like a really long time. Like even before I had my art Instagram, I like, you know, it's a little embarrassing, but like growing up with social media, like it's so cool to like see all these people doing like rad things and having a platform where people are like, yes, I care about the cool thing you're doing. I want to see more of it. And I've always just like been inspired by that. And so that was like a really big goal of mine. And I'm like really, you know, happy and like excited about that, but I haven't thought too much about like goals past that. But that's also exciting because like I've been in such like a growth and like engage, like, you know, being consistent, growing, like doing all of this to like not let people down, but to like keep that momentum going. And I kind of feel like I'm allowed now, not that I wasn't before, but like I can like take a moment, slow down, figure out my next steps without feeling like I have to be like, you know, getting new products and opening a store and posting new art every day and like doing all of that to like kind of like make my name for myself. But projects I'm excited about right now, I don't know. I have a few freelance projects that I'm working on that like, I always think that's fun. Like just getting like a new, you know, someone coming to you and being like, I have this idea completely new. And like, can you make it or can you bring that to life? And that's kind of fun. But personally, I'm working on, I don't know, I kind of like, I wouldn't say changed my like style, but I got very into posting like not just the mountain illustration, but like the mountain illustration plus like a little quote or like some nice words or like these like positive phrases. And I really want to work on like releasing like a curated print collection of like all of those. In the past, I've kind of been like, not just like releasing things here and there, but it's like, I'll make a few designs and then like I'll make a drop, or I'll release a few prints, and like they're not really like curated in that sense. They're just curated by being like my most recent work. But so I've just kind of been like excited about like kind of like slowing down and like making more curated and like coordinated merch drops, whether that be like, these prints, or like I just released like notebooks, and I really love stationery, so I want to like get more into that. Something that it's not currently in the works, but like I really want to do, and I want to do it well, is like I have never done like apparel in any sense, and like I'm always getting comments where people are like, oh, like I would love to see this on a t-shirt or like a tote bag or a hat, and I'm like, well, first of all, I don't wear hats. Like I've never even thought about hats, but if people are interested, like I would be. But yeah, like t-shirts and like tote bags, I think like there's something that could totally work well with like my art. But I've just always been, not always been, I've just been kind of like nervous of getting into that space, because like there's like so many factors of like sustainability and like in terms of like materials, production cycle, like all of that in terms of apparel, and I just like want to make sure I do that part right. But also like I don't really have a problem with having like a little bit of extra inventory of like prints. Like I can, I'll give them out, I'll whatever. Like that doesn't make me nervous. But like having inventory of like t-shirts like definitely does make me nervous. And so I've been trying to like not hold off on that, but I've been trying to like think about how I want to do that, or how the best way to do that would be. So yeah.
Where are you're selling merch right now, and where is that?
I have a website. It's graphicsandgrain.com. And it's merch. Like I have mostly prints. I have like one notebook. I have a pin that I designed. I have like a few like various products, but it's mostly like prints right now. But I want to expand into like other lines of merch.
Oh, nice. We'll definitely put that in the show notes. The website.
I brought some stuff for you guys. I'll show you back at your place.
Thank you. Well, we'll go ahead and start wrapping it up. Is there any last comments or questions that you have?
I just want to take it back to your 10,000 Instagram followers, because like you were like, I know it's not a big deal. Like that's huge, especially right now, because we're in kind of the later years of Instagram. It is hard to get organic growth. It is not easy to even get 100 followers anymore. It used to be, but now it's not. And in such a short time, you created this account that people care about. They care about your work. They want to see it. And that's huge. And it does sound silly, like, oh, I have 10,000 Instagram, but like,
no, but it's more than that. It's not just like 10,000 followers. It's not just the number at the top. It's like you have people who, like you said, care about what you're doing and like want to see more of it. And like that's the part of it that's obviously really special.
Yeah. Like if you put 10,000 people in a room, like there's that TikTok trend. Okay,
like you might only get four views or 4 sales, but if you had 4 people in a room watching you do what you're doing, you'd be freaking out. Like
10,000 people looking at art, like what? So that's awesome. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
And hopefully you'll get more and more support and more people buying and not just looking at it, but buying it. Support artists.
Yeah.
Which brings me to, if we know the website where people can go for any merch that you're going to have. If somebody wanted to reach out to, I don't know, talk to you or ask you a question, where would they
hire you for a freelance gig?
Yeah, whatever the case, if they want to reach out to get a hold of you, where would that be, or how would they do that?
So Instagram is definitely my main social media platform, and my Instagram handle is @graphicsandgrain. My email's on there too, but if you want to email me right away, like it would be graphics.grain@gmail.com. And then, like I mentioned before, my website is graphicsandgrain.com. I also have an Etsy, which is like the platform I started selling on. But I've since transitioned to my own website, but like the Etsy's still live. You can find me there too. Also Graphics and Grain. That's me.
Awesome. We will definitely put that in the show notes. And, thank you for coming down, and it's been neat getting to know you and Alex.
Thank you.
Which we'll be talking to him soon. But yeah, thank you. And I can't wait to see the finished product. I got a peep of it last night. But I know it's changed. But yeah, thank you again. And we can't wait till you come back and visit us again, maybe with your parents. I don't know.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been lovely.
Yeah. All right, folks. That's it. And we are calling it. Hasta luego, amigos.
Adios.